Michelle Deuling here with a book for you. It's called Skunked by Herbie. It's a book that I wrote and it's supposed to be illustrated by you. So we have a picture here of Herbie, and then on the inside, there's lots of words, but no pictures. So you guys, well, I guess the first one does have a little picture on it, but then you guys get to like pick your own, write your own pictures. Okay, so I'm not going to be showing you a bunch of pictures, but I'm going to read you the story, and you guys can start drawing and send in some of your pictures to me. I'd love to see them. So this book was written at the request of my very special nephew, Zachary. It was seconded and thirded, I know that isn't a word, by my equally special nieces, Avery and Kirsten. Thanks, Zach, for encouraging me to write. Your enthusiasm and love of reading what I write has been such a blessing to me, and I hope you enjoy this book. It was written in November of 2017. Skunked by Herbie. Herbie crept slowly out of the hollow of the fallen log, cautiously peeking in all directions, letting his nose inform him of possible dangers nearby. Sensing that all was right in the world, he hurried along with the gait only a skunk can manage to make look so cute. Herbie was on a mission. He had just awakened to the growl of his tummy, and he knew that if he didn't hurry, he would be hunting for food that was already devoured by those that had started out while the sun was still in the sky. You see, Herbie was a cute little skunk, only a few months old, but he had learned quickly that it was necessary to sleep in the day and find food as the sun was going down. Herbie and his 5 brothers and sisters were now 4 months old and were completely independent. They still liked to play together, but not until after they had had their breakfast. Herbie found Sandy digging up some grubs. He hurried up to her, but she was just finishing off the last one. With his stomach still growling, he hurried to another log and began to dig. He hit the jackpot. Grubs and mealworms were his favorites. With a full tummy, Herbie decided to have some fun. A game of baseball would do just fine. He just needed to get some friends together. He called out to one after another until he had enough to start to push the ball around. His ball was just a little stone, about the size of a robin's egg. Everything was going fine until it was Herbie's turn to run the bases. As he rounded second, he thought he could make it to third, only to be tagged out. Herbie did not like to be out, and whenever he didn't get his way, things became quite unbearable for everyone. You see, Herbie would release some powerful odor as he stormed off, making it impossible for the others to continue playing. Sammy, Sandy, and George plugged their noses and ran. The next day, after a wonderful meal, the little skunks all decided to go skip rocks in the river. Herbie couldn't quite get the rocks to skip like he wanted, and being very upset, he exploded with more pungent odor and went back to the hollow log. Again, everyone had to plug their noses and make a run for it. It wasn't long before nobody wanted to play with Herbie. His frequent explosions when things didn't go his way were too much for them. He was a cute skunk and a lot of fun, too. But until he could learn to control himself, they really wanted to keep their distance. One day, Herbie's mom sat him down and tried to explain things to him. She told him that God had given him his odor power as protection from enemies. By spraying every time he was upset, he was misusing his power. She also explained that if he was careless and wasteful, there might come a time when he needed it for protection and it would be gone. That night, Herbie was out again. This time he was digging in a hole for a mole, and just as he was about to grab it, one of his friends called his name, and the slight distraction was all the mole needed to slip away. Herbie was furious, and not heeding the warning from his mom, he aimed and fired. Willie was on the receiving end, and he was not a happy camper. Herbie didn't care. He was mad, too. He had lost his lunch, and now he had to start all over. As he stomped through the woods, he calmed down and began to use his nose to try to find at least a grub. As he was digging, a strange noise caught his ear. As little Herbie lifted his head, the eyes of a hungry coyote came into view. Herbie began his stomping and charging, but this coyote wasn't to be deterred. Quickly, Herbie spun his tail end around and let loose with nothing. Oh no! He had used up all his spray. He quickly ran to the end of the log and made a mad dash inside. The coyote was close at hand and almost snapped his sharp teeth on the tail as it passed through the log. The coyote wasn't about to give up. He began to paw at the log, trying to break it up. Herbie was scared. As he lay in the log crying, he remembered all the times he had let loose of his spray, wasting it because he was angry. He was in a sorry mess now, and all because he hadn't learned to control his temper. He decided right then and there that if he got out of this mess, he would only use his spray to defend himself and never because he was angry. Just then he felt the log start to slip. The coyote had broken it loose. It didn't split open like the coyote had hoped. Although Herbie wasn't impressed with being spun around and around, he was rolling to his freedom, and for that he was very grateful. As the log began to roll, the coyote decided to get out of the way and took off with his tail between his legs, running faster and faster as he tried to outrun the log that was chasing him. The log finally stopped after it hit a couple of small bushes, and Herbie was able to escape. He made his way back up the hill after the ground stopped spinning. Herbie was going to have to be extra cautious for about a week while he waited for his fluid to reload. For protection, his mom encouraged him to always stay with a buddy that could help to protect him. This gave Herbie a great opportunity to make things right by apologizing to all of his friends. James 1:20, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. What do you do when things don't go as you planned? Do you throw a fit and have a stinky attitude? Humans may not have the odor that God gave to skunks and the ability to use it to hit an enemy 12 feet away with great accuracy, but a bad attitude does give off a horrible smell, just the same as it hits its mark, too. Oftentimes, we continue to have a bad attitude. We lose friends, just like Herbie did. It is also a sin and makes it so that we are the enemy of God. So the next time you get upset, think about Herbie and then show God that you trust him and let him work things out his way for you. In Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. The end.